if you're one of the many players out there that's fallen into the forever DM role, the one who's always running the games for your group, or even if you're running them online and you're just happen to always be the one who's setting up games and even running them for strangers, there's a good chance that you've come to a point where you feel tired and maybe you just don't want to do it anymore. Maybe you're burning out. Well, today I'm going to discuss that because it's happened to me and I'm sure it's happened to a lot of you. And at the same time, I'm going to draw a hex map. Not the whole map, just I like a starting area, basically. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about getting over DM fatigue or DM burnout. I'm Tristan. This is Heroes and Homebrew. Let's get at it. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that if you do something a lot for a long period of time, you'll probably get burned out or tired of it. I'm not talking about like practicing something and putting it aside. Something that's you feel like you've got like a pressure on you. And this might not apply to all DMs out there. And if you're a DM who gets great enjoyment from it day in and day out and has never suffered from this, then more power to you. But I know for myself, it has happened on more than a few occasions where I've put a lot of pressure on myself to create a good game for my players, as well as trying to but trying to meet the expectations of the players. And because of this, and on top of all the other duties that you have as a DM, it burned me out and it made me not want to play. And I stepped away from the game for about like 8 months to a year. So it's perfectly natural. It's a normal result of having to do something again and again. And even if you enjoy it, because it is a hobby and it's supposed to be enjoyable, you can still burn out from it. But it's not the end of the world. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to say, I'm just not feeling it. I don't want to play this week. And if your players can't understand that, then maybe you need to have a conversation with them about their expectations of you and your expectations of them. So I've got my hex paper here, printed out. It might be a little hard to see the hexes on here. I'll be honest, I'm not sure how many hexes it is wide by long, but it doesn't really matter. For the purpose of this, we're going to say that one hex equals 1 mile, because we want it to be a small starting area. We'll have like a town and some like interesting sites around it. This is kind of what I did for the Gygax 75 challenge, although I didn't use a hex map for that. I just drew it in my notebook. But we're going to use the symbols that are found in the D30 Sandbox Companion. So these are the map symbols that you can use. They cover everything from towns and cities and ruins to mountains and swamps, etc. Okay, so we are going to start with our town. And if we go back to this, we can see a town is just a simple dot. Okay, we're not going to do a big city. It's just going to be a small, normal starting town like you would normally have. So we're going to put our town in roughly the center here. There we go. There's our town. And then we're going to work on it from there. So, dealing with burning out, I think sometimes it might come with a sense of guilt. Like, we're supposed to, as DMs or game masters or referees, however you want to call it, we're supposed to be able to just, run the game and be happy that we're playing. And a lot of the time we are. But there's also a sense that your players have expectations of you. that you're going to provide them with about 3 hours of fun every week, every 2 weeks, every month, whatever it is, and that you'll be ready to go. For myself, I found that depending on the system, some systems require less planning than others, of course. But I found with the demands of regular life, of like my jobs, my family, all of that, and then adding on top of that the demand of having to plan a session, like a 3 hour session, on top of that, it cut into my personal time a lot. And that's where I started to break down, is that I felt like I never had enough time, and I felt like that because of this, I maybe wasn't giving my players the experience that they may have deserved. So, what I did was I stepped back. And at first it was subconscious. I was putting off sessions and saying, "Oh, I can't play this week" and whatnot, and I wasn't honest with my players right away. I just put it off, and it was somewhat unfair to them, and to the point where the game eventually died out. And I feel like this is one of the reasons why these games have a tendency to die out, especially with when you're playing online and maybe your group is mostly strangers that you might not have any connection with outside of your game sessions. You might not feel that you're beholden to them in any way. But eventually it got to the point where I said, I can't do this anymore. So I think we're going to put mountains around this. Not all the way around, but partly around. So I stepped back. I was playing 5e at the time, trying to play other systems because I was getting tired of 5e. I was getting tired of fantasy. And I took a step back and I stopped playing altogether. And I just, started to enjoy my life outside of gaming. But what I found was after a break of about a year, I started to miss it, and I was getting inspired by other forms of media. I'd watch movies or be reading books or what have you, and I would say, "Oh, hey, that would be kind of cool in a D&D campaign or something like that." And so I would take a mental note. I wouldn't be writing anything down. But I knew I didn't want to go back to 5e, and that's when I found OSR games and more rules light games that allowed you to stress out less about the rules and the setup and creating a big campaign, because I think that was part of what really made me burn out, was the idea that I needed this grand campaign that had a huge narrative and it was epic, and now I'm much happier just doing what I do, which is small dungeon delves, or not even small dungeon delves. We're playing a story. It's unfolding more naturally than me trying to plan everything out. So I got burned out on 5e, but that's a different story. But even things like I found it hard to find a game that would bring players to the table that I wanted to play. Like, I wanted to play Cyberpunk, but that was hard to find players for. Alien was a little harder to find players for. Things like that. So I took a break. But what I found is when I took a break and I started to relax a bit and not stress about the game, that's when I started to find other games and find the right games for me. And I think this is universal regardless of what the game you play is. But I realized that I don't have to put that kind of pressure on myself to create something epic for all the players. You know what I mean? I can create a small story, and I'm allowed to give players rules and limits on the types of characters they can play. I found a lot of the time it was a point of players making demands on the types of characters they want, and me trying to find a way that I fit into the story I wanted to tell. So once I gave myself permission to say no and kind of stick to my guns and say, no, this is the game I want to play, and I'm sorry, but that character doesn't fit, but let's work together and see what we can find that will fit. I took a lot of that weight off my shoulders. Alright, so we have a mountain range here. Let's look here. We're going to need some ruins. So that's a mine, fort, camp, shrine. Ooh, a ruin is just a square. Easy enough. Alright. So that is all I'm saying, is that it's okay to give yourself permission to tell your players no, and that'll take a lot of the stress off of you in thinking about how you're going to create this game of theirs, of all of yours. Now I've seen some, I'm going to put some hills here around the mountains. I've seen some videos on TikTok of players saying, oh, it's the DM's job to make sure that the game is fun for everyone, and it's the DM's job to build a story around your character. And I'm sorry, but that's just not true. It is not purely the DM's job. There has to be some sort of contract between the players and the DM that allows for not everything to be falling on the DM's shoulders. And if it does all fall on the DM's shoulders, then the DM has the right to put limits on your characters. But that's kind of neither here nor there. And I think that's a part of it, is there's a misunderstanding between younger modern players and older players like myself. That it's believed, and I don't know where this idea comes from. I don't know if it's from the wealth of games that are streamed online that are for entertainment, so they are very different than what a real game is. And like, those games are built around the characters because they're building a brand and they need to make it entertaining for people watching. I don't know if those people who got into role playing because of those streams misunderstand what the DM's job is. I find a lot of those expectations is what kind of fuels the chances for burnout. Alright, we need some forest here. Alright, I'm going to do a little bit of forest and scrubland. And then I think we'll be kind of done for this. So we have our starting city. We have our ruins. We got some mountains here and some hills. I think we'll make a river. I'll have another one coming through here. Make that connect. And then one from here. So we got those rivers. We have the ruins over here. Let's make this area all trees. Remember, these are 1 mile hexes. We're not going with the typical 6 mile because we want this to be a small area. And I think this area is going with your typical like temperate zone. It's not a desert, it's not Arctic or anything. But it's still relatively wild. Like, you know, we got these large spaces of forest. This will be grassland. Here. Yeah, grassland there. That maybe we'll put, I think we'll put a mine here, up here. There, we have a mine, we have some ruins, we've got our town, our forest. What else can we put in here just to make it a little more interesting? Oh, we'll do this. This will be a swamp over here. Alright, so that's not so bad. It's a good start. Certainly enough you can play the first couple of sessions. So that's it basically. Give yourself permission to step back and take a break if you're getting tired. It doesn't mean you have to end the campaign if you are having fun with your friends. If you're getting tired, say, hey guys, I need to take like a month off. Just I'm burning out and I'm not going to be able to provide you with the game I want to provide you with, and nobody's going to have fun. In the meantime, does somebody else want to run something? I'd be happy to play. It's simple as that. If your hobby is not fun for you, then why are you even doing it? The chances are, if you're going to keep pushing yourself to do something you're not enjoying, then you're going to end up permanently stepping away from it. And nobody wants that. So give yourself permission to tell your party, I need a break. Does someone else want to run something different? And while you're on that break, consume stuff. Read without thinking about, oh, what do I need to do for my campaign? Just read stuff you enjoy, watch movies, and eventually something's going to click and you're going to say, it's time for me to start again because I've got a good idea. Even if you're taking a break from an ongoing campaign, those new ideas might cause something that you didn't think about before. And say, well, I'm going to make some changes in this campaign because I've got a great idea. So that's it. I hope that helps. I hope any of you who are maybe struggling or have struggled with this find it helpful. If you have burned out from DMing, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys because we have some great conversations down there. So that's it for now. Save a seat for me at your table. Later.